All right, you're live on YouTube now.
Okay. So you're able to, one thing we need to figure out here with this live on YouTube is to figure out how to,
Get the link from before.
yeah, how to get the link even now. How do we get the link now? You have the link?
Yes, I see an option at the top. Copy streaming link.
Yeah.
Sending it to you now.
Okay. You're going to send me outside of the, well, we have 25 participants. How are you sending me, Mr. White? Sorry for all the technical details. Mr. White is helping me with this process, and we started late because we're having technical difficulties.
All right, sending it by email as well, Miss
Okay,
Mary.
wonderful. All right, welcome everybody. We're gonna do a short presentation, and then we're gonna have a workshop. So we're gonna go ahead and start. Is there any question from anybody before we start? I see that there's a, or maybe that's Mr. White. Is that
Um,
Mr. White? Is there any question?
just to what?
Just two.
Well,
Okay.
for now, you said we have this in our workshop. What's the main thing we'll be covering now on this?
Let me. I'll cover that in the presentation. What's your other question?
Um, well, that goes both. Like the two questions are what the presentation and the workshop's about.
Okay, I'll cover that in the presentation. I was just trying to copy this. So you want to know what we're going to be covering today. So fine. I'll definitely do that in my right at the beginning of the presentation. Just trying to get this YouTube thing. So this is session two. And probably I should save this. How do I save this? Save. All right, so let me go ahead and start because this is gonna take forever. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and start. Welcome everybody. Sorry for the delay in our beginning. We soon get into why we're here, what we're going to do in today's session. So what we're doing, I'm calling Awesome Research Lab, which this acronym is acronym for academic writing education, student upskilling and mentoring. So there's a similar series that is geared towards staff members, and we've been doing that one for a number of weeks. So the student research lab just started last week for those who weren't here last week. In today's interaction, we're going to be asking you to do, at the end, to do a short questionnaire. So, all right. So last time mentioned, so in terms of, I'm playing on the word awesome. So, ask, W write and E entertain. I'm suggesting that if you are thinking of doing really good research, as in awesome research, you would want to ask questions, write regularly, and entertain feedback as part of the very important part of the key strategies for doing excellent research. So, in terms of asking questions, you want to think about reviewing your question carefully by looking at the scholarly literature and, if necessary, changing the question, which is this is the second point where you refine it. And if it's a what is called exploratory research, meaning new type of research, you may redefine it or refine it. And it's common to reword research questions. You want to write a lot if you're a researcher. It's something that is hard to do, but the reasons why is if it can solve real world problems, practical significance, or it can add to the knowledge in the world, theoretical significance. If you can create new pilot projects or software, those are artifacts. It's good to write about them, not just create them. If you can have a research hypothesis and test it, you can write about it. Um, and you can, as you prepare to actually publish your research, you first come up with what is called a literature review matrix. Then you identify the target journals and conferences that you will be aiming to publish in, and then you need to figure out what time and place to write. That's all part of the where. There are a number of things that are the where/how that you want to think about. And you always want to think about entertaining feedback, which is part of what we're going to be doing in the workshop today, which is seeking peer review. So peer review means anybody else who's doing similar kind of research. So that is both internal within your research team and other colleagues, and for you as students, colleagues are other students. But really, all of us are like lifelong students if we know what's best for us. And then there is external feedback, which includes conferences, journal reviewers, and we can also entertain feedback by reviewing works of others. And on that note, I was making a comment in a presentation to colleagues the other day, and in my review of a work, I got critiqued. So there's so many ways in which you can get feedback. Even in your feedback, you can get feedback. So the objectives of the series as a whole, and maybe I should go to what today, but as a whole, we're going to have a series of workshops. The series right now, in a sense, is geared for final year students in BSc computing, primarily doing major project, as well as students in MS ISM doing their final project. So the workshop right now is geared for them primarily, but third year and fourth year skit students in any program can join. In fact, if you're a first or second year students and you've got the link, you can stay. So this is for any skit personnel. So whether you're admin staff, technical staff, student, faculty, you are allowed to stay. So it is focused on major project and final project, but anybody can stay. Coming in June, we're going to have some focus for the third years. Right now, the focus is not for the third years. So as a whole, the project is to look at, is to help with, so it is to improve the capacity of students and staff in order to do good research. So by the way, for those who don't know, major project is research and development. It's either research only, research and mean development, or research and major development. And we can talk about that if you don't know what I mean by that, but not right this second. The objectives of all of the sessions is to increase the output of three things. Your performance of as students, as you know, you all get course assessments. So the course assessments for major project, the course assessment for RES 3024, this set of workshops should improve that. It's supposed to help with more publications and presentations of high quality, as well as positive publicity for SCIT and UTech Jamaica. That's the goals. So before I go further, I should talk, since I was asked a question, what is the point of today? So last week we started talking about chapter 1 and the concept paper. Today we're going to continue with chapter 1 and the concept paper. So slide after this is what is the concept paper. It has a title, background, problem statement, purpose, research question, significance, proposed methods, definition of terms, and there's always a reference list. And that's what the focus of today's session is. But for the second half of the session, we're going to be looking at real projects and giving feedback on those projects. That's a workshop. So the workshop is, we're going to have limited time because we're ending by 7. We're giving feedback on any project that is willing to look at the feedback. But we can only do that for so much time and no more. As a note, there is a project that I'm supervising. We're going to take a quick look at their ethics form in order to, it will be quick, in order to give feedback that will, I think, will be helpful to everybody who is doing major project right now and going to do it in the future. So to the person who asked that question earlier, does that answer your question?
Yes, miss.
Okay, good. Any other quick question? So let's go back to share screen. All right, so where we are, research and development has 5 chapters. Introduction, literature review, methods, results and findings, conclusions and recommendations, references, appendices, and the like. And the ideal outcome is poster presentation, peer-reviewed papers, patents, positive publicity. All of those things could be possible outcomes. So maybe you all know this, and from glancing, it seems that most people who are here are people who are in major project. So just to point out a few things here, the title is tentative. Really, until you get to the end of your whole project, you don't need to worry about the title. You have a topic, but the title is tentative. Your background must have citation to scholarly work. Your problem statement should be a paragraph telling you all about what you have in the background in a summarized way. The purpose is what is the aim of the project. The research question, then you have something that is the key of the entire project. It's called research question. Or you can restate it in terms of aims and objectives, or you can restate it in terms of hypotheses. The goal of all academic research is to answer research questions. Good research studies are significant, either theoretically, meaning adding to knowledge in the world, or practical, solving a real world problem. Any good study must be what is called robust. The research design must be a good match for the research question so that the research will be valid and reliable. So it's important as you conceive of the project that you have a good research design, a sensible sampling strategy, and instruments which include surveys, interviews, etc. By the way, for those who keep thinking that all research studies must have either focus groups or observations or surveys, they don't. There can be excellent projects that don't have any of those. So please stop thinking that the instruments must be a survey. It probably is the most common in SCIT major project, but it doesn't have to be at all. And then we have, so for example, a lot of experimental studies will have no surveys in there, and that was, in fact, could be excellent studies, better than the surveys. You would want to define your terms, and you want to show that you have actually referenced scholarly articles by a reference list and in-text citations. I see that somebody had, can't you guys hear me? Somebody's asked me if I'm talking.
We're hearing.
Okay, well, I guess that person has a person probably has a, hi, Dr. Fisher. That person probably has a, what is it? Internet access issue, right? So the key components of research is a research topic, research title, research problem, research purpose, research questions, and significance. It is clear that you should know all of these. The topic is just the general idea of what you, sorry, a topic could be cybersecurity, a topic could be health informatics, a topic could be computers and education. Or computers and education, you might want to focus it on, that's really, the topic really might be, let's see, might be using gamification to improve the education for programming students. That might be the research topic. The other one might be the research area. That's what we call these things. Is a little bit, not sure they're so clear. But if you have the topic, you need to have a tentative title, but don't need, you don't need to focus on the title. What you actually need is a statement of the problem or research problem, which will lead you to writing a purpose, the research question, and the significance. the research questions are the heart of our project. So it is what the researcher or research team would like to be answered or addressed in the study. And every good research study must have significance. You don't know for sure that it will be beneficial, but it could be beneficial, right? Not just to you, to other people. Usually call these people stakeholders. So what's the research problem? It's an issue that that you're going to say how it justifies the research study. So it is important. There should be something that is interesting, and you should be able to tell us how you can. There's a phrase added to the literature, which really means how can your study, if it is well done, add to the scholarly literature. You know, as in academic journals, which are preferably peer reviewed. How does it add to that kind of a thing? So the problem statement is going to tell you what you're researching. The idea is to state in a few good sentences, in as few words as possible, what the problem is really all about. It should identify the variables that your study is about, the relationship between the variables, if it's on more than one variable, and all the participants. Usually many research studies has more than one research group. So if you're doing a study at a university, you may want to look at the staff and the students as two types. In fact, if you're looking at staff at UTech, there are 4 types of staff: ancillary, academic, administrative, and technical. It could be that your research may not want the ancillary staff, but the point is you need to think about who are all the types of participants, what are the variables, and are you studying relationship between variables? So last week we talked about this, just reminding you that you should know what a variable is. Right now, I'm going to assume that you know this already. Just reminding you that in many studies, you could expect that one variable has an impact on the other. So the independent variable affects the dependent variable, and it's only in an experimental study that you are actually studying, you're actually manipulating the independent variable. If you're doing a cross-sectional study, which is all at once, you're not manipulating that variable. If you're even doing a longitudinal study, like a cohort study, for example, but you don't manipulate the independent variable, it could be independent, but it's not experimental. We're not going to explain all of this today because we're not looking at methods. But the point is, you actually need to be thinking about, no matter where you are on the research journey, as to what are the variables that you're measuring in your research study. Remember, your variables can be qualitative or quantitative or both. So the examples here seem to be all at the moment quantitative: gender, which is a Boolean variable, female or not female, academic performance, and teaching method, and then there are other variables that could have an impact on the dependent variable. And so every variable should be able to be measured, and we call that operationalized. And to give an example here from the textbook that we have been using for this class for the longest time, as in RES 3024, that you could measure program achievement by the scores obtained by students on a teacher-made programming test. And so in a problem statement, you want to go from the topic to the research problem to justification for the problem. Are there any deficiencies in the evidence, and how does this relate to audiences like researchers, professionals, policymakers, and persons in the study? And where would you get sources of problem statements? It can be from theory, research literature that's been published, your personal knowledge, other kinds of context that you know about. And here's a subset of what could make a good research problem. It's of interest, it's within your knowledge base, it is worthwhile, you can do it, and it is manageable within the time constraints you have. So what research do you actually want to do? In a best case scenario, we shouldn't be telling you what research to do, just kind of the principles of how to do it. So last time we looked at this, which we're not going to spend much time on it unless somebody has a question, that there's an interesting paper that talks about different types of research gaps. And if you look at this table, you see that there can be an evidence gap. So you have more than one study on the topic, but the studies contradict with each other. There's a knowledge gap because there's a paucity of research, not much research on that area. There's a practical knowledge gap. So even though there's a lot of research on the area, people don't actually apply it in the quote unquote real world. There's a methodological gap. So we might think that the research design doesn't fit the actual project properly. So we want to come up with new methods to get better findings. There's an empirical gap because we want to actually evaluate if the findings are good. So for example, one of these things could be something called a meta-analysis study, where you actually pool all the research studies together that exist in order to see what is the overall result of many studies. That's one type of empirical gap study. There's theoretical gap. As I said last week, I don't expect undergraduate students to be doing this typically, where you try to come up with a new theory. This is a bit complex. And the population gap, which we commonly use, which is that the research has been done in developed countries, but not in developing countries. And can we just assume that in developing countries it's the same thing? Not typically. And so this is a typical argument that we use in many of the studies, that we're doing it because there is a gap, it's not been done in our local context. So you want to think about whether a problem should be researched. Is it feasible? Is it significant? So do you have access to do it? Do you have the time, resources, and skills? The significance, does it fill a gap? Does it advance knowledge? Does it contribute to practice? So in terms of feasibility, these two things before, there's some more questions. Are you fascinated? Because it may not be feasible if you peter out before the time is done. Do you have the necessary research skills? Can you complete it in the time that's set for the project? Will the research still be current? This is important because if you're doing a master's or PhD, but if you wanted to publish, if it's no longer current, as in not important, then so what? Do you actually have the money? If you don't have the money or time or the technical resources, it may not be feasible. Will you actually be able to gain access? So even this week, I got an email from a supervisor to say that they were not able to gain access to interview people. So if you're not, and it was just that data was qualitative data. I can think of several projects that people start and they are not able to gain. So if you can't gain access, project is not feasible. Is it worthwhile? Are your research questions clearly stated? Is your research design robust? Was it likely to be valuable to others? Does your topic link to existing scholarly work? If it doesn't, it is possible it could be worthwhile, but it is less likely. Each of these questions are just big questions that will help you answer, is it worthwhile? None of them alone, as in if the research design is not robust, then it's not worthwhile. But some of these are just, they're proxies for, is it worthwhile? Will the proposed research provide fresh insights? And then as a student, you want to ask yourself, is the study that you're doing actually at the standard that UTech wants? Does it match your career goals? These are things that you actually want to ask yourself seriously. Like I remember a particular student who's here already asked last week saying that he wasn't really that interested in the topic, and I reminded him at least it will be finished in a couple months. So when you write problem statements, those problem statements can either be formal or informal. If it's for a major project, we are basically asking for more formal, and it helps to tell somebody why it's important and raise awareness. And you want to think about clear terminology. So through a problem statement, you use the same phrase in the same way throughout. You don't tend to use, what do you call it? You don't tend to, important keywords you use in the same way throughout. You talk about the values and beliefs, and you reference seminal works, not just only relevant, not only up-to-date works. So seminal works are typical in good, strong problem statements. So I took this, I hope they don't mind. Well, maybe it's owned by UTech. So one of my groups that I'm supervising right now, this is what they submitted last semester. So let's read it as is. So the disruption caused by the novel COVID-19 virus has affected persons with non-communicable diseases, making it challenging to access appropriate medical care. As such, patient turnout has been steadily decreasing. Consequently, there is a challenge in getting regular checkups and filling prescriptions, which affects these patients' well-being. There's a citation. There's an opportunity to explore the potential use of an e-prescription act as a countermeasure in providing patient care in prescribing medication for chronic illnesses. That's a problem statement. So I think in coming up to your problem statement, usually you're expected to delimit the problem. In other words, narrow it down. Why? To keep it manageable and to help focus your literature review. So when I was thinking about this in preparing for this morning, I thought, but you also need to focus the literature review. And this is what I tend to see a problem with people when they write the background for the chapter 1, as well as in the literature review chapter itself. A lot of students tend to forget about the global context. So if you go back to this project right now, this is not the problem statement. But you see these statements, we don't have all the citations, but all of this, the first few sentences are true globally. As in, globally, COVID is actually affecting people with NCDs, and they're having difficulty across the whole globe to access medical care, and people are across the globe turning out. Why? Because of the lockdowns. It's obvious. So this is affecting people's well-being, and the thing about this is the global context. We can also see, if you could write, if it was a background, the local context. But back to what I'm saying here, you want to always write not only about the local context, you want to write about the global context. So a lot of students write these things up, and they're doing a study in Jamaica, and they forget to write about the global context. So you need to write the global context, the local context. Another common mistake I see when people are writing is, even though we are all in the school of computing and IT, somehow they forget that there's technology. So let's go back to this one I'm saying as an example. You see here, this last sentence here, they want to explore the potential of an e-prescription app. So even though this is a summary, there's a technology. So, if I followed my thing here, but it would be nice if there is literature that there could have been a sentence about the local, but this is just a problem statement. We don't need the local here necessarily. But what you definitely need to know is that the goal is to identify globally, locally. And since we're in computing, you need to make sure that you're looking at either problems or solutions related to technology. And this is the minimum what needs to be in literature review. Now, if it could be that there's nothing locally in Jamaica and you want to do the study in Jamaica, perhaps you might be looking for what's happening in the Caribbean or what's happening in developing countries. But you want to not just look global, you want to look at anything as close to the local as is possible. And then there are these really big questions. And I want to ask anybody to answer. So anybody, please open your mic and answer question 1. I want you to answer it first. What's the relationship between the background, research problem, and the research question in the concept note or chapter 1? I haven't spoken about it, but feel free, apart from any academic staff, feel free to answer. You can see my screen, right?
You are highlighting a problem, and you're also outlining how you can do your research and address that problem.
You're outlining your problem, and then you're doing what?
And then you're stating how your research is going to address that problem.
Okay. I don't understand how that. I don't know which of those is a background research problem, and I didn't hear anything about the research question.
Okay, so the background is giving information on the general issue or the general situation. Problem statement, you are highlighting the problem that links to the background, and the research question, you are addressing how your research can address the problem.
Going to address the problem. I wouldn't, that's not what I would say the research question about. Anybody else? Anybody wants to add to what he just said? So the background is, in a sense, a concise overview of the issues related to the proposed research study, which is similar to what you were saying. I want to understand how that background that you can write. Typically, we're suggesting something like a 1 to 2 page background in the chapter 1. How is that background related to, let's go back to this. Let's say we don't have it here. So this is a problem statement. How would the background for this project be related to this problem statement? Anybody, including the people who are here for this project? Is this question hard? I certainly have people, but everybody shy. 39 people. Somebody put something in the chat. Let's see what the chat says.
Some are on YouTube as well, Miss Muir.
Oh, some is on YouTube.
Yes.
Oh,
you also have students from Papine and from Montego Bay. See a number of Montego Bay people in the on the Zoom link.
Oh, there's a Zoom. Oh, the Zoom link. Okay. Right. So let's go back to this. If a group's project is approved by the ethics committee, but they say that the questionnaire needs some work, can the questionnaire be distributed once the changes have been made, or does the updated questionnaire need to be approved first? Miles Morgan, this is not about what I'm presenting right now. So general questions about major project, we're going to put at the end.
All right.
So short answer, Mr. Morgan, is that as far as I know, every single ethics project has been, you and your supervisor need to talk to me outside of this meeting or the end of the meeting. This is a meeting with 39 people, and I don't know how many are streaming. At the end of this entire meeting, we can talk about it. I'm trying to get the answer to my question. You can see that.
All right, Dr. Muir. Miss
I
Muir.
don't, yeah.
All right, regarding answer to your question, which is, if I heard correctly, what is the difference? How does the background statement link to the problem statement? That's it, right?
And the research question is on the screen right now.
And the research question. All right, the background statement basically gives context to the research.
Okay.
And the problem statement, which leads to the problem statement, which the research seeks to resolve the issues surrounding the background statement. And then what is the last one now? Research
question.
The research question now is linked to the research statement. Basically,
they're all linked. I don't know if my colleagues would disagree with me, but this is how I like to put it succinctly. Thanks for that attempt. It's very interesting. So this is how I see it. The background in my mind covers the key components of whatever you're looking at. So if what you're looking at is, let's go to this. So this was actually a summary. So in the background for this topic, which is about e-prescriptions to assist in patients with non-communicable diseases in Jamaica. That's what the project is basically about. Need to talk about the impact of COVID-19 on NCD. So there'll be a chapter about that. There'll be a paragraph about that. There's either another paragraph or the same paragraph talking about like the impact of it on the filling of prescription. So this is either one or two paragraphs. It's talking about the impact of COVID on the persons with disease and their filling of prescriptions, right? So that is the problem, and this could be looked at globally and locally, and depending on how much detail you want to get into, that's part of the background, and this would be long. Then you also want to talk about how people ever have used, and it depends how detailed you're going to do in just the background. You're going to be talking about either how people have been using prescription apps or other kind of health technology to help with improving healthcare. So in the background, there's going to be more discussion of this area, right? So since the background is going to give a little quick overview of issues related to the topic, the problem statement in my mind is a really clear summary of the actual problem or opportunity that the research study will be addressing. And in my mind, that problem statement should not be a shocker if you've read the background, because the background prepares the reader for where you're going to go with the problem statement. So there's a direct relationship between the background and the problem statement. And then back to my question, not only the background and the research problem are tightly linked, that I typically say the research problem in a best case scenario would be a subset, clearly summarizing what's in the background. So there should be nothing new in the research problem because you've basically touched on it in the background. The research question now is, you've identified a research problem, you've now said, what are the questions that we actually want answers to? So let's go to my example. We read this earlier, that here's a problem. Here are the research questions for that particular one. It's coming to it right here. How receptive are patients, physicians, and pharmacists to adopt e-prescription apps in Jamaica? How receptive are pharmacists, physicians, and patients to monitor medication adherence online in Jamaica? And what are the Jamaican pharmacists, physicians, and patients' perceptions of using a pilot version of the e-prescription app? So these are the research questions that this group wants to look at in relation to this problem. What's the problem? The problem is people are having difficulty actually getting their medication during COVID, especially people with non-communicable diseases. For those who don't know what that is, that's things like high blood pressure, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, etc. And so can we have e-prescriptions apps that help people get their medication at this time? So there's a direct relationship between the two. Let's see what this question is. How specific should your problem statement be to your research population or sample group? Usually there's this thing called delimitation, which is separate from the problem statement or the research question. Usually you may go to the country in the research question, and then you can have a section called delimitation, where you then decide how you might limit the population. So if you're looking at Jamaica university students, you might then say in a delimitation section that you're delimiting the project to university students in urban Jamaica. And by the way, population and sample is two different things. So the population is the group under study. So if you're doing a study, let's say that study we had on the screen, that study has patients, physicians, which are doctors, and what was our group? And pharmacists, right? That's the population. The sample now is how many patients and how many medical doctors and how many pharmacists. That's the sample. So you also don't want to mix up population and sample group. That's a common mix up. for a lot of students. Oh, I'm glad that you're understanding that. So let's go back to where we are. So to everybody, we're willing to answer any question that can be helpful. So back to where we are. So hopefully, and then the next question I had, so hopefully question 1 is of use. And then what is the relationship between literature review and the research question? So next week, we're going to be looking again and reminding us all about literature review. And the burning question, what is the relationship between lit review and research question? If anybody has a quick answer right now, I'll take it. Otherwise, I'll come back to it at the end.
The literature review will cover all of the studies that have been done within the field so far. And the research questions will address the gap within those studies.
Okay, yeah, I think that's a good way of putting it. The only thing I would caveat, I would say to you, good answer, is that no literature review can cover all the studies in a field, even if you're doing PhD. So why in a slide coming to right now that limit the scope of your project is that since you only have limited time and energy and space, you have to figure out how to limit literature review to what's important in your project. So it will be an attempt at summarizing and appraising the scholarly literature focused on the topic of your project. And the only time it is really comprehensive is when you're doing a PhD or doing what is called a systematic review. But it's an attempt to be comprehensive. Sorry to be so technical. Are you following me, the person who just gave that answer?
Yes, I am.
Good. Hopefully everybody else can follow along what we said. But excellent answer. I really like it. I'm just trying to just be precise. Yes, so guys, the mistake many people make is they think that the research questions are answered in the literature. If the research questions are answered in literature, you need to modify your research questions. Unless, if let's go back here, remember we had this thing called the evidence gap. Sometimes there could be a research question and that some of the answers are in the literature, but it's contradictory. But the point is, it's not really answered, because if you have 3 studies saying X and 2 studies saying the complete opposite, then the literature doesn't answer it. It shows that what we really don't know. Everybody's saying something different. So basically, if the literature can answer the research questions, then we need to modify the research questions. So there is a relationship. When we read the literature, we discover what research questions are justifiable. So at the end of chapter 2, you're able to say, this is why we're doing this research study. Basically, you justify the research question through doing an adequate literature review. Hopefully this is clear to everybody. There are many different frames to look at research questions. One that I found that I think is nice is this thing called FINA criteria. It's cited in this paper written in 2010, which talks about the project must be feasible, interesting, novel, ethical, and relevant. Earlier, I basically talked about the feasibility and the novel, or was it valuable really? Maybe it's valuable as this. So when I talked about this one and this one earlier, but it's also good to be interesting and it to be novel. This was talked about earlier in a sense. And we all know that an ethical. Hi, I'm in a meeting. I have to talk back to you. Yeah, sorry about that. Somebody keeps calling me. Right. And then the same paper also has this criteria, which we won't spend time on now, but I found it interesting. So this was written for a medical audience. So you can clearly just ignore the word patient. So a lot of us are not doing intervention, so you would ignore this one. But what population are interested in? A lot of people doing studies need to identify, is it only one population or 2 or 3? Like I just told you, like the study just now at the university, is it students and staff? In medicine, is it patients and physicians? You need to know who are all the groups. That could only be one group, no problem. you may have an intervention or you may not. If there's no intervention, no problem. An intervention is where you're doing something to make up a change. For example, Dr. Lisa Faces Shaw, who was on the this meeting right now. I think she did her PhD studies looking at whether you could use games to improve the intrinsic, or was it intrinsic, motivation of students, for the motivation as well as the performance of students in learning programming at an introductory level. Hopefully I'm telling you the project right, I'm not sure. And then typically in many research groups, you want to see if one group compares with another group. Not all research, but some, you compare group A with group B. In almost every study, you're measuring at least one measurement. So you definitely need to know, oh, what is that you're measuring? And you need to know how much time your study is going to do. So this may not be relevant to many of your projects, but it might be. So I just included it in case it could be helpful. Now, in my mind, I focused these things that were in yellow because a lot of people don't focus the research problem. They forget that it's like the whole world, that's a problem. Then they forget to focus issue review, like it's either too narrow or too broad. And a lot of people tend to not focus the research questions. And so I'm suggesting that it should be narrowed to a local context related to a documented problem, typically related to computer technology, we're in SCIT. And if possible, related to your field of specialization, but this is not a must. So this was the research questions we showed earlier for the problem statement that was shown earlier. So we're now going to move to the workshop. And I'm just asking some rhetorical question. What are your strengths and challenges in writing chapter 1 / the concept paper? So with that in mind, in my mind, the future is awesome. I went to a Mixed Methods conference in 2017 that was really awesome. And this initiative is starting now. And I'm hoping that by 2030, the vision that I think each of us individually and collectively can have about research can actually be accomplished. Now for students who are thinking, wait, I just want to pass major project, great. So I'm hoping that the passing of your major project will not be something trivial, that the skills that you acquire can be used for you as you start businesses, as you go to jobs in ways that will help you transform society for real. So the vision is not just for published research study, it's for using the skills that you learn in research and development to transform our nation and the world. And then I'm just showing you again for those who came on late that the awesome strategies that I'm emphasizing is asking questions, writing regularly, and entertaining feedback. And my hypothesis is that if you do all of these three, along with practicing research and development, we can transform our nation, because the evidence is that the higher the percentage people put in research and development globally, it tends to increase the GDP of that nation. So here's some recommended reading related to what was presented. So I didn't actually make any reference to the Creswell, but there's references to the other three papers here. That's it. All right, so we're now going to stop sharing screen. And apart from ethics questions, which will come at the very end, any question? So we are going to now go to, we're going to go to a topic. So let me see, there were several people who sent me, so we have another O. There are several people who sent me their papers. Okay, rule of thumb for chapter 1. There's no specific thing. So for this computing research methods class and for major project, there's some amount of leeway, but in general, I would suggest that the background typically is remember using APA format. So APA format is double space with a running head and the rest of it, which you can, it's all available it's all available freely on the web to find out what the rules are. So just keeping in mind that it's a double-spaced paper. Typically, the background is a page to 2 pages. The problem statement is a paragraph, which is maybe a third of a page. So perhaps the background and the problem statement could be 2 pages at max. And then the rest of it, which will be the research question or questions, the purpose, the significance, the definition of terms, that together could be 3 pages. So typically, outside of the reference list, we're looking at 3 to 5 pages. So 3 to 5 pages and then the reference list. So the reference list always starts on a new page and we're not counting the cover page. So 3 to 5 pages. If it's under 3 pages, it's unlikely to be a really good chapter 1. And I'm suggesting that if I go back to what I had, I'd have to share out the screen. But I don't know if we're here or there, but it's always good. Yes, you can actually add articles from GIS and Gleaner in the background as local research. Yes, you can. What I generally suggest to people is that you want to limit the local references unless you only use it only if that information or that data is nowhere else. But mistake what I tend to find when people use GIS, Observer, Gleaner, and other local references is they have no global references. And since you're doing academic writing where there is a context where many people have written on the topic, you must write in your background, in your chapter 1, on what's in the scholarly literature. So now we go. I hope you heard me loud and clear. But when I say you can, it doesn't mean that then forget about the scholarly literature. In fact, since we're here, show of hands, people who are on the Zoom, put up your hand if it would be useful for you right now for me to show you how to find articles on Google Scholar. I know I've seen some people here who already know really well, so I wouldn't want to waste your time. Anybody here wants to know? Show of hands. Or we all here have mastered that craft well. I see one person. So only one person, everybody else is an expert or semi-expert? 2 people. Okay, we have 3. So since we have at least 3, let's go ahead and do it for a second. Let me share screen. And here. Okay, so earlier I was looking for the finder. I couldn't find it, so I just looked for it. So let's see, what do we want to look for? Somebody give me a topic. Somebody speak out loud and tell me what you want me to research. It can be even your major project topic or something you're interested in.
IoT temperature sensors.
Oh dear. Internet of Things. I don't know about the temperature, but let's just put in temperature. I don't know if I want to put in sensors. Okay, so we see that we have 500,000 results. So apparently this is something that people have been researching. No, just for those who don't know, do you know that you can actually in Google put the time? So I can put in, so since 2020 is 20,000, since 2017, 55,000, I can put in different ranges. So I can go to 2015, just showing you that that's an option. And why am I showing you that option? Because as a general rule, you both want articles that have a lot of references, which are typically called landmark studies. So like this one with 98 might be a landmark study. A lot of references, right? And you also want up to date. So you want to look at both relevant or current papers as well as landmark papers. So the thing about this topic that I'm not an expert in, it's going to be difficult for me to just find and figure out which of these papers relevant to your study. So I don't know if this highly deformable temperature sensors for Internet of Things is really what your study is about. I don't think so, because I think it's a study I know about. The thing about it, in general, when you're doing projects, so look at this. There's a study about infant body temperature. Is it you want to look at every single Internet of Things and temperature, or is it one related to health? I don't know, but let's go at the end of time. So we had these studies, and what do we really want to find? So there's even a paper about tracking the temperature. So my first question is, what is your study about, and which ones? So you see, if I just wanted to find out about it, I just start looking at the papers. So this one is not about the body. This is about indoor temperature. Because even the sensors, it's not about the human body. And I know isn't your project about the human body?
No, it's not. It's about indoor temperature mostly, and it's around ambient air quality, basically.
Oh, indoor ambient conditions.
Yes.
Right. So for example, since it's actually not on the human body, but about the actual ambient conditions, I would definitely look at this study. So I would just, for everybody showing me, I want to make sure I select the APA, because remember we're using APA at UTech, and copy it and put it in a list review matrix or in a, there are all these tools that people use to manage references like Mendeley, etc. I personally have never used them, but you need to find a way, whether it's a notepad or any tool that you use, you need to keep every reference that you might use, because it doesn't matter if you don't use them. It's better to store them and then say, oh no, I don't want this reference, than to then go, oh my God, I'm going to spend a half an hour finding about a paper that I wanted. So the reason why I look at this right away, given your topic, is because even though this is not an indoor, it's an outdoor, it's related enough that it's important. So I'm opening up this paper to find out what the abstract says. So basically, the use of platforms from IoT can improve the management of indoor temperature. So let's say I don't read any other paper. This alone is already interesting. If IoT can manage indoor temperature, then maybe it can manage outdoor temperature. And then we want to read the paper to see what they found. And since the whole paper is not here, we might need to contact the UTech librarian to find the paper. And I don't have time right now to read the paper, but I got what I wanted to do. The use of the platforms actually can improve the management of indoor temperature. So since I now know that your paper is on outdoor temperature, let's put in outdoor temperature. And there we go. There's another paper on outdoor. There's another paper on outdoor. And here it is. So we want to look at this one as well. And here's the citation. This is from 2017. And let's see what this paper says. Make it bigger. Let's see what the abstract says. It's a long abstract, and I'm just trying to get to the gist of it. So the end, usually the results are the end. It's about fuzzy logic. In this paper, we propose a new approach to control the temperature using Internet of Things. Not only the indoor temperature, but also the outdoor temperature in order to save energy and set a more comfortable environment for their users. Finally, we will conclude that the fuzzy approach allows us to achieve an energy saving around 40% and thus save money. And then here's the whole paper. So here's the paper, right? So the point is they're papers. So as a quick, you saw 37,000 on Internet of Things and outdoor temperature. So there's a lot of papers on this. So hopefully that should be a quick lesson on using Google Scholar, not hard. And the key things, just to do this again, just for those who did not follow, let's go back to here. The key things to do is to see that you can change the dates, use the custom range, that you use this to get the APA format, and you just double click here. You can look at other articles that cite from this article. So these 52 articles cited this article. So if you put this in either a new tab or in the same tab, here's the 52 articles cited by this article, which then you might find articles that are relevant to your study. If you really particularly wanted outdoor. I guess I should have gone to the indoor one. I'm not forgotten whether your project is indoor or outdoor. So that's important. Another quick trick is on the right. When you click on the right, you tend to get the articles faster than the ones on the left, based on my experience. And essentially, finding articles is just hard work. That's my last tip. You need to figure out what are the key terms when you are let's say we wanted this. Let's see which other one's related to your topic. I don't even see something else. So Internet of Things, this is temperature as well. So let's look up this paper. So this paper, I'm actually looking for the, oh, it's not here. I was actually looking for the keywords, not there in that paper. So let me look in the other paper. Usually at the end of the abstract, you have some keywords. So this one says Internet of Things, fuzzy logic, temperature control, and temperature sensors. The one we had opened before, their keywords were Internet of Things, fuzzy logic, temperature control. Oh, this is actually the same things. But the point is, if you look at papers, like this is the paper I was looking at that we referred to today. This particular paper, let's see, did it have key terms? Oh, this one actually doesn't have key terms. This one I actually used to do the reference today. Many papers have references at the end. So if I go to another, yeah, here's another paper looking at the risk-benefit ratio of qualitative research, and here are the keywords: ethics, moral perspectives, vulnerable population, sensitive topics, reflexivity, qualitative. So the reason I'm showing you this is that when you're doing an investigation to find good papers, you want to use the keywords that papers that you find that are excellent, use so that you will quickly find other excellent papers. Anyway, so that's it for that. So I'm going to stop sharing again. Is there, Alex and Shade, did you have a question, or that was you still wanted to ask about? Is what I just do help you with the Google Scholar instruction?
My question is related to hello, good afternoon, everyone. My question is that could we actually like you use our work and then you just critique it, like what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and you give us feedback on some actual projects? Is that possible?
That's what we're going to do right now. So the
Right,
challenge is a lot of groups that want that. So what we're doing right now is the workshop of doing that now for the next, until about 7 o'clock. Yes, Alex. So my plan is to do the people who had already sent me their projects, unless they're not willing. So yes, Alex, that's the plan.
All right, sounds like a good plan.
Yeah, man. Shade, do you have I don't know how to pronounce your name. W, what's your question? Alex, you can probably lower your hand. Shanid, I don't know how to pronounce your name. She hasn't lowered her hand. All right, so I'm going to, while we're at it, is there somebody who's volunteering to go first?
I mean, you could use mine first. I did send you my project.
You had sent it, Alex?
Yeah, I did send you my project.
Oh, I see. Before we do that, let me close this. I definitely need to, oh, okay. All right, so let's close this back. All right, let's just do this for a second. This is not the one I want to do. I must be on this list. Oh, here. All right, so I just want to show this before we go any further. So this is the same project that I showed earlier. So these students have said that the questionnaire was designed by 5 UTech students conducting a survey study. So if you remember, and then it says, what's your gender, how old are you, etc. So it has some questions. This project has already been reviewed and approved by the ethics committee at UTech. So we're not worried as it is about whether the project is okay. So let's go back for a second. Hopefully everybody here knows, if you've gone through major project or CRM, that there is a cover letter to participants. So here it is. This was their cover letter. A student or research team is conducting a study to determine the potential use of e-prescription apps in enhancing patient care. So basically, this paragraph is telling you what the study is about. And then similarly, in the consent form, says something similar. So in a sense, since it's all online, I think we don't need to do it twice. But the thing is, the informed consent is a requirement of UTech and a requirement of research projects across the world. The informed consent is supposed to be placed in the questionnaire because that's the only time the people would see it. So what I'm actually saying now, let's go back to the study from before. This study should have this in here and then say, I agree to participate in the study. Everybody following me? Because basically,
The whole thing.
what's that?
Is that the whole thing? The whole letter should be there and an agree button, right?
Yeah,
Agree or
well,
disagree.
the thing is, I don't know if I want to make a comment because, sorry, let's back up. I work at University of Technology, Jamaica, and University of Technology, Jamaica actually says I must put the whole thing. I personally am thinking, well, that's really long. So really, according to UTech, you should put the whole thing. What I have a problem with is you put nothing. So a lot of you got the ethics approval and then it's not putting anything. The people are supposed to know that participant and volunteer, that there is no risk, etc., that they can contact this. So yeah, they should get the whole thing. It really should be there as part of the study. That's what is the procedure at UTech. Now, to be fair, just to give you the context globally is more and more these days, informed consent forms tend to be shorter and shorter, but certainly things like it's volunteer and there's no risk, and a short description of the project, if there's no risk, should be there. So no matter what, the aim of the study should be there, and that is volunteer and there's no risk. So at the very least, this part and some signature should be there, and then there's just some click on and off. Yes, I agree to be in the study. I don't know if my colleagues want to say anything about that, but yes, it should be there. Somebody had a question. Yes?
Yes. So I'd sought some guidance on that particular topic, because of course, if you include all of that, it becomes very wordy and it can turn off some of your participants. So
I would have
one
to
of the
agree,
guidance,
Mr. Wilson.
Sorry?
I would agree with you, Mr. Wilson.
Right. So one of the guidelines that was given was to include a line that says, by completing this questionnaire, you have agreed to the terms and conditions stated above. So like a summary of what you're doing. And
what terms and conditions?
Similar to what you were saying, this is what study about. It's confidential. By participating, you agree to XYZ.
Right, but hold on. Here's the thing, Mr. Wilson. There are two things with it. That is why you might be disagreeing with me. That is why, and as it is that I am about to do a study, at the end of this session today, we're actually asking everybody here who are students to participate in a questionnaire, since we're doing a study to find out how you feel and think about research right now based on your current understanding and this particular training session. And at the end of it, I think there is a balance. So in the middle of trying to figure out how to, whether people really understand what the study is about and not violating their rights to not know what the study is about, there actually is a trade-off. The challenge is, yes, you don't want to turn people off, but the also challenge is you really should go by the rules. And don't know, I'm sort of in between now about rule breaking versus what is best for participants. But I'm just saying, let's go back to this. I'm saying really what you really want at the heart of it is something that says the aim of the study and these things. The problem is, if you're doing a study that has limit or no risk, this is less, but you really have to tell if people are voluntary. And what you just said to me, that the people agree, but if you don't have that early, what are they agreeing to? So it could just be like what happens when you sign up to Facebook or Instagram or Gmail. You have these long terms or conditions, and you just don't read all of it and say, press agree. How would a lot of text turn anybody off? I mean, serious, no, because I'm trying to think. I have signed up. Sometimes I read the text and sometimes I don't. I don't know. I actually wanted to move on, but does Mr. White or Dr. Faces Shaw or any other colleague want to make a comment? I didn't want to really spend too much time on this part. Yeah, Dr. Faces Shaw is here. Mr. White, are you here listening? Or they're here but not listening?
Am I able to share my screen for you to view what I have and tell me if it's acceptable or not?
Oh, you want to share your screen?
I mean, yeah, I don't know if this is the
Hold on,
form for.
Sorry. Did you, Jordash? Did you already get ethics approval on all of that?
I got conditional approval. It was pending clarity on a particular question.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen. Let me see.
Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, I'm seeing it. Right, but for example, let's go to the beginning. You're invited to present our survey on, and you have an e-commerce refers. That doesn't tell you what the study is about. So the factors impacting e-commerce adoption for micro and small and micro business doesn't tell the people what the study is about. You're actually defining for them what is e-commerce, but you don't tell them the benefit of the study to anybody. So here's the thing about so maybe we didn't train you properly. The whole point of these things is to explain to the prospective audience why it makes sense for them to be part of the project. So if it was me, I look at it and I go, but wait, what's the point of this study? You give me the title, but you don't tell me the benefit of the project to the world. It's not there. Either the purpose of the study or the expected benefits are not there.
Okay, so just need to go into the detail of
no, but you're supposed to have done the informed consent. And did you do the informed consent? And essentially hold on, what you're doing is retracting it, even though you wrote it. I don't know, but not sure.
Right, so it was an informed consent. It's just that.
Right, so basically Jordash, what you're basically saying is that you wrote that for bureaucracy and then now you're ignoring it.
Well,
yeah,
not in so much words, but yeah, it's
those exact words.
I mean, a part of the concern again was if you make this too wordy based on the demographic that you're catering to, it will turn them off. If you see more than 2-3 paragraphs, they're not going to, be
right. So okay, so let me give you the context too. Usually what happens, since I actually have training in this area, what is supposed to happen ideally is that informed consent doesn't come through forms. It actually comes through conversations.
Agreed.
Yeah, so it is all about literally explaining what the study is about and explaining what the value. So at the end of it, you've explained, you say, oh, that's what I just explained in writing. And remember, you can do it through a Zoom call, you can do it through a WhatsApp. Okay. So once you've actually got the people to co-op, how does the text, whatever? Because if you explain to me and it's there too, you just say, oh, by the way, all what I told you, it's all there in writing. You don't have to read it.
Okay. I mean, that's kind of guidance I needed because yes, we would explain, but we just want to know if we need to formally include all of this there.
Right, but at the end of it, I don't see anything to tell us it doesn't even tell us the purpose of the project. It just has the title.
Got you.
It's a bit limited. And don't forget, you actually have 1 or 2 sophisticated small and micro business owners, and you're just deciding for them that they don't need to learn more. It's I don't know. And then, for example, here, this project is only in Jamaica, presumably, but you don't tell me that, you don't say, are you in Jamaica? So even from the beginning, sorry, this is not really right. You can stop sharing screen, although you haven't made sure that you delimit it to the people that's should not be included. So you only want Jamaican businesses and you only want small and micro, and have you made sure that no large businesses will open it? Will actually answer your question here. Those are also some of the things that you need to make sure when you're doing the study. Otherwise, your results will not be of value.
Yeah, man, agreed.
Right. So back to where we were. So there
Smear?
yes.
Right, just a quick comment. I think part of what was being asked as well, that section about, are you hearing me?
Yes, go ahead.
Right. So I think part of what was being asked, that section about your participation is voluntary and so on, and especially because most persons are going to be submitting or doing their survey via an online medium,
Mm-hmm.
then having those sections there, participation is voluntary, you invited to participate, and all of those things are important to place there. So apart from just the additional information that could be provided about the purpose of the study and the benefits, then I think what was presented there is a pretty good way in which you're providing or facilitating informed consent if the
Right.
person is participating in the study.
Right. There's two parts. So one is what study is about, and if there are any risk, and the other part is, by the way, you don't have to do it. Here's who you contact if something goes wrong, which is the second part. That's really two parts of the informed consent.
Right, which is what you had on the screen. So
Right.
I think it was, pretty good, except as you suggested, it could have just explained a little bit more, the benefits to the person who's filling it out. But I think what was there was pretty good.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher. All right. So I don't know if I should choose because I've gotten several emails. I don't know of the people if they're still here. Is there any group that sent me an email that wants me to look first? Because I got a lot of emails. It's a lot, maybe about 4.
Mister, can look at my project if you want.
Alex Dono, you said that before. So Alex, who sent this? Who sent this email? I think trying to think. I'm trying to think that's a little bit of a tricky one. But Alex, who sent this email? Is it you?
Yeah, it was me. Yeah, it was me.
It's you.
Yeah, me.
Okay. Alex Dono. Ask him to be listening to the Zoom meeting. Okay, all right, let's see. All right, so let's download this and open it and enable editing and then share screen.
And Miss Moore,
Mm-hmm.
you don't have to pretty up anything. You can just be harsh as you can or hardcore as you want to.
Okay.
Just let me know the absolute truth and what.
This is the current version, right? I'm on the right version. Just making sure. Is it?
Yeah, I believe that's it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So their tentative topic: exploring the benefits to be achieved by micro, small, and what is this? Medium enterprises using digital technologies on a common platform to support their business. Okay. So generally, I don't read the abstract at the beginning until we know that the project. So they actually have a chapter 1, a chapter 2. Oh, but no chapter 3. Okay, so let's move on. So they actually have a background. So, but before I get to the background, let's go to the problem statement. Oh, it's long. All right, so let's look at the problem statement first. So let me see if MSCs are defined before. Okay, so the first thing is any acronym you use must be defined right up front. Secondly, second comment, I'm going to go through a lot of comments for everybody to learn. So next is, generally speaking, you don't make quotations unless two reasons. One, it can't be said better, or the person who said it is very important. So maybe this one counts because it's the minister. So according to the ministry, I'm not sure what this means. So where's the citation?
I mean, the citation would be the Ministry of Industry, Commerce. It's
There's
a
no
report that-
date. According to the ministry, let's see the citation. So let's go and look. So I'm giving feedback on everything. So let's see if I can find that citation. Oh, let's go. Why are your things not in alphabetical order? All of that first. Let's just. It's not works cited. It's references according to AP. Yeah, oh, you have to do a search because you don't have an alphabetical order, which is required by AP. So let's look. Ministry of, what was it? Oh, what ministry of what? That's not the right one. Is it this one? I don't even
Yes,
know which
it's that
one.
one.
That one.
Yeah, that's
So it's
the one.
oh, so it's a 2017 reference. Right, so it's 2017.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back to, so it's a policy document.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me go back to you're starting the paper there. So close this, go back. So I'm just trying to make a judgment. I'm going to start with the thing. According to this policy document, 80% of jobs in Jamaica contribute significantly to the GDP of the country. Again, I think you can paraphrase it without without quotation. So this is not written practically brilliantly. It don't fit into this language well. This is something to be paraphrased, as in said in your own words. So the only time that you quote, in my opinion, is either it is said brilliantly and you can't figure out how the best writer in the world could easily say that better, or it is an important person. It's not a person speaking. This is a policy document. That's my rule of thumb. So this should be restated in your own words with a citation, Ministry of Industry, Commerce and that, 2017, and the year should be there. So, okay, so this is important information. So I commend the group for giving us information that 80% of the jobs from MSC contribute to GDP of, apparently of Jamaica, yeah. So it leads to livelihood of families and communities by contributing to the wealth, employment, and income generation. Okay, in the last 5 years, 2013, the sector accounted for the highest percentage of registered businesses in the country. Now, if this is Jamaica, you might want to say that because we don't know unless you say it. We don't know where this is coming from, you know. We don't know that this is Jamaica. So if you mean Jamaica, you actually need to say that. And then you say that MIFCAF. What is MIFCAF?
It's the Ministry of.
Oh, up there. Okay, MIFCAF defines that as those having 5 or less, and between that respectively. Okay. So then again, you didn't define SMSEs. Doesn't it include the medium enterprises? And then this is micro and small businesses. So again, I'm a bit puzzled as to why it's micro and small.
No.
Medium is in this,
Actually, the same
but
thing.
medium not
It-
down here.
I guess it's a typo that needs to be fixed.
No, it's not just a typo. Micro is defined differently than small, and small defined differently than medium. I'm pretty sure of that. So we need to look at it.
It was supposed to say micro, small, and medium enterprises. It's the same. It's the same definition. It's the same wording. It's the same abbreviation. I mean, but I guess it would deal with some type
No,
of.
but the industry is defined differently for each group. The amount of income it generates is different for medium versus small and micro. So this I know is problematic. Because micro has a different definition than small business in Jamaica, which has a different definition than medium. I know for sure. I've read this before. So you need to be careful what you say in your paper. Right now, it's getting a gist of what's going on. But so far, we're knowing that MSC is very important in Jamaica because there are a high number of businesses, a lot of jobs.
Daddy, come up.
It contributes to GDP. Lots of important information.
Come up.
Excuse me, can you mute your mic, please? Hello. For the sector with importance to the country, one would expect it to be flourishing with great support from private and public stakeholders, easy to access to financial aid, technological adoption and advancement. However, this is not entirely the case. Okay. In a publication by Metcalf, so typically this is like this. Metcalf, this is just, APA format. It is stated that the challenges facing SMEs in Jamaica are both internal and operation. Okay. Many businesses are characterized by enterprise that lack long list of things and are generally unfamiliar with available business support services. The study further goes on to state that the majority of social enterprises are part of the MSME sector and therefore face many of the same constraints experienced by that sector, such as informality, weak managers, etc. Okay, so the thing about it, what I see so far is SMEs have a lot of value, but they have some problems. But here's the thing about it. The first paragraph doesn't have a cohesive sentence giving us what the paragraph is about. And the second sentence actually starts pretty good. So the second paragraph actually nicely, the only thing this will be semicolon. Second paragraph, the first sentence is actually what is called a topic sentence. Nice topic sentence. I think it probably could need some more citations and it's only one reference. So yeah. And then let's go to the problem statement now. So MSMEs in Jamaica are being outpaced by the marketplace and face a high risk of being displaced and going out of business due to large and continuous shift from a physical marketplace to a virtual one, where customers are increasingly purchasing goods and services online. So this sentence doesn't have a citation, and I didn't have this statement. I don't see how it was evidence in your background. Was it?
Yes, it wasn't in detail.
So, no, not in detail. Where was it at all? So this is the first real critique. I have some other critiques. So the first critique is every claim. This is a claim. It's a big claim. You're saying that they're being outpaced by the marketplace. What marketplace? You mean the big companies?
And no, the marketplace.
What marketplace?
Well, the marketplace is defined in the document. The marketplace would be like where goods and services are bought and sold. So normally it would be a physical market, but now it's actually moving to more virtual. So that's really what that sentence is saying, that it used to be a physical place where people exchange goods and services. Now it's actually moving online to a more virtual space. And because of the aforementioned things in the background that they are suffering from, This is why they are not able to keep up with the new companies that are actually using.
Yeah, man, I understand where you're going, but you never defined marketplace before. Did you define it or describe it?
Yeah,
where in the background? In the background, where in the background is it?
I guess it is not in the background.
Remember, I gave a whole little speech before this. Remember, I spent quite a little of my speech, and my speech was the background is a foreshadow of the problem statement. Nothing in the problem statement should be a shock. So when you have a new term, I'm like, what is that? Remember, not what I know from before. So, and then not only that, if you're not going to have a citation, then these ideas should have come before. And in my opinion, it would better is even just repeating. But let's say it wasn't repeating, it's a new thing. It shouldn't be a shock. So I'm not sure. So maybe you're saying that face-to-face things are being outpaced by the marketplace. Where, why, how? And so back to, where did you read this?
Well, that was the general sense I got from what I was researching.
We need citations. Sorry, let's go back. We're just going back to exactly what I presented earlier.
Mm-hmm.
In order to validate what you're saying, if this is true, there must be a whole heap of people who have said it, but at least one. Where are the citations? Come again?
The validation would come later.
No. No. Remember, you just told me, I don't even mean harsh. It's just factual. It's not later. We don't need to go to later. We're not going to review. What happens in the background and the problem statement is you establish what exactly is going on. That is the whole idea. We don't need to go, if what you did was written an Excel review, and then you say, oh, I found out all these new things and I need to now modify my chapter 1, then you need to modify your chapter 1. So maybe all the evidence that you know about it is in your chapter 2 right now, because that's how there's a long chapter 2. But
No,
it
it's actually in the full problem statement later down in the other. So the citations are given there. That was just like
with the long what long problem? Problem statement is finished right here. So I don't
but
say
if you
any.
read it-
Hold on. I'm looking. There is not one citation in the problem statement. This is resource question. So here it is. Problem statement, no resource, no citation at all.
well, I think there are some citations
I'm
there.
right here. You said of the survey group and no citation. In a survey, but the citation according to APA is a very strict rule. It must have the author's names and the year. That's the rule, not my rule.
Yeah, but the thing about it is that this particular citation, it's not really done by an author. Most of these
Listen to me
documents
again.
are
Everything must either be an organization or something. And if the thing wasn't by an organization or person, it don't deserve to be in the problem statement. So who did it?
It's the Central Information Technology Office. So it's like an organization.
Right, and they did it some year. So they don't know what year they did it?
Well, the year is actually in the reference. I guess
It must be here. I'm telling you what you must do. So remember you told me? And I'm actually trying to be as polite as possible. According to not me, the APA document says that you must put who wrote it, which it might be the Central IT Office, and the year. That's the rule, not my rule. I didn't come up with these rules. Actually, depending on what references you're doing, it's different rules. Let me see what's in the chat. Somebody is saying please and thanks. Well, the only thing about this whole thing is that this said person, Muir, who is the current leader of this, is a bit tired having been up from very early this morning. And the goal is to finish at 7 o'clock, which is coming close. Anyway, so let's continue to where we are.
Yes, Ms. Mira, I'm aware of that.
Yeah, hold on. So let's go back to this. So, okay. So let me just look at this really quickly and just get the gist of it. So SMEs in Jamaica are being outpaced by the marketplace and possibly face a high risk of being displaced and going out of business due to large and continuous shift from a physical marketplace to a virtual one where customers are increasingly purchasing goods and services online. Given this reality, 80% of Jamaican small and medium businesses surveyed by CITO in an e-business adoption survey said they have no interest at all in having a website. So I'm really curious as to which year was this. Of the survey group, apparently the same thing, 17% had a website and 3% had a website with e-commerce capabilities. This can be interpreted as these businesses having no interest in an online presence, and given that a lot of them operate informally, they lose out on pivotal institutional support, and it may affect their ability to grow and develop. In this study, okay, so in this study, that's not the problem statement, that's the purpose. So where's the purpose? Oh, it's not here. So you should have another thing called purpose. So this is the purpose. We aim to investigate the factors preventing SMEs, particularly in the wholesale and retail sector, from adopting and utilizing to go online. Challenges face. Hold on. So here's the next thing. You want to look at the challenges that the SMEs face. When in the background or the problem statement did you tell us about their challenges? You told us about, hold on, what I see, because I've glanced at it, is that you've told us that they don't want to do it. So, so this tells us that they're important and that they have some challenges, like a whole lot of management challenges, but we don't tell us anything about their perceptions to what website apart from here. So now you want to study the challenges they face, I presume is in e-commerce, but you don't tell us any background in the background section or about this. So again, when we say that there's a link between the background and the problem statement and the purpose and the research questions. So let's go to your research questions. Wow, guys, you never want more than 3 research questions. It may be 5, but 1 to 3 is generally. How does the fusion of innovation model compare with other countries? But you never even tell us about the fusion of innovation in your background. So you're not following the rules I just gave a presentation on. So you want to look at the diffusion of innovation, but you didn't tell us what has been found about that in other countries. Remember, back to my thing, I would prefer if you had something about MSAs in other countries in your background. But if it did not, it would need to go in literature review. So there could be a context where the background doesn't necessarily need to go global. I think it's generally better. But if you didn't have it, you never mentioned the fusion of innovation in your background or in your research. So how it come here? So this is puzzling. Next question is puzzling, and yeah, what effect does possessing a business education have on? This wasn't talked about either. Next one, how does informality within MSEs, particularly wholesale and retail, affect their ability to participate in the global value chain? These are 3 massive questions that I'm not even sure if they're related. How does the financial inclusion strategy seek to increase digital payments? What is this? Wow. And digital payments remember, digital payments include not just business to consumer. Is it business to business? Is it peer to peer? It means so many things. This is so wide open. Does the diffusion of innovation model apply to this in different contexts, urban versus regional and cultural? Nice question, but you didn't give us any background that motivated this question. And then what factors inhibit IT technology adoption in wholesale? So, okay, here's my first thing. This looked to me like at least 3 different major projects. So the first problem is the scope way too big. Next problem is that the scope, the research questions, not related to your problem. And I don't mean not related at all, but it's not clearly related to your problem and your background. I've not forgotten the name of the person who shared this with me. Who was it again?
Alex.
Alex, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But
yeah,
let me
this way too big. Remember, you wanted to finish major project like this year. I'm being serious. This topic way too big, Alex. We need to figure out which of these you actually want to do as a group. Because I know it's 5 of you, a bunch of you. And it sounds like you have a topic worth exploring. I think it's certainly something worth exploring. I'm still not even sure what is the common platform that you want to look at. Look at the topic. Exploring the benefits be achieved by using that and the common platform. I still don't even see how this coming in yet. But remember, the title is tentative, so we don't worry about the title yet. Yes, Alex, you had something to say.
Yeah, let me give you some context. The thing about it is that what the questions really are is that those are the challenges that was talked about in the background. The thing is, what I'm getting from you is that I should go more detailed with the background and put the definitions in. The thing is
no, not the definitions. You need to write it in a way that people understand what the project is about. It's not background. It's not background. So, for example, if you want to say that the fusion of innovation has been something that has been used to help understand SMEs and their transition from face-to-face commerce to online commerce, and therefore it could be useful in a Jamaican context, then you should have had at least 1 sentence like that in the background. There isn't even 1 sentence anywhere. Not even a definition. You don't even have to have a definition. You didn't even mention it. I can see why this might be relevant. A business education may, or a IT education, in fact. Why not IT education? So what effect does a business or IT education, sorry to be expanding your area, but the thing is, I'm just saying you don't touch on the thing at all. I'm not even getting to definition. Almost all of these questions, I don't see where. This is the only one. What factors? And you don't even tell us. What are the factors that other studies have shown that impact SME adoption? So let's go to, am I sharing screen, right? I'm sharing screen? Yes, I am. So let's go back to anytime. let's close this because that's tricky. Let's go back to my Google Scholar, and your topic is I don't know, Mark, MSMEs. Am I saying this right? Factors affecting.
Could I say something real quick,
Yeah,
Miss
man, go
Moore?
ahead. Yeah, man. Yeah, man, go ahead.
All right. So for that question right there, that's what the research. Yeah, for that last question right there, that's what we're going to use the methodology to discover, because what we have learned was that not enough data are really out there regarding MSMEs adapting to technology. Not a lot of data is showing that. So that's what we're going to use.
But there's a study in
research.
Jamaica. Look here, a study in Jamaica. I don't even know why they get in this study. There's a study in Jamaica by UTech people. See it here? 43 people cited. Wow, I'm impressed. Anyway, there's a study about. Did you refer to this one? So why in your background would you not refer to this? I mean, meaning, sorry, let me tell you why I said why you're not referring to this. Because it's not e-commerce, but everything that leads, but back to this, there's another paper, like just 2 years ago, about the intention to use e-commerce in MSCs. The point is, where are those papers? And if that's what you want to look at, it's another one here, e-commerce in Kenya. I don't know how many there are, but there are papers on it. There's one published just last year, Factors e-commerce in Median City, wherever that is. So there may not be many, but there are papers. Barriers to e-commerce adoption in Egypt, cited by 135. It's an old paper, but it's there. So I would call this a landmark study.
So what you're saying in a sense is that the background should form the context for everything that is supposed to be spoken about. Is that what you're saying?
Let me say it again. The background is a summary of the most important papers tied together in a nice story of, okay, here's what's going on in this area. Then the problem statement is like either a summary or like a highlight of, here's the essence of the problem or the opportunity that we want to address in our research study. Then the research question, so the purpose and research question are like restated in two different ways. The purpose is a sentence or two, and the research question flips the purpose into question marks. The questions that you're going to address in your context. You know, usually so-and-so in Jamaica or whatever. Yeah, but yeah. And the literature review is a wholly more than the background. So it's a very expanded background. So when I teach in these days, I try to tell everybody that the background is a mini literature review. It must refer to literature without any doubt. That is why I want to spend as many times as possible. So like next week, Wednesday, I don't know which other day this week. So if other colleagues here want to volunteer for this, maybe next week, Wednesday, we can spend 2 times for the day. You could do it lunchtime and evening if you all want. But for the next few days, given all the things that I have to do, I am sort of out of time. I have people I'm officially supervising. I have zillions of things to do. A zillion. But yes, everybody who's listening, and we can go a little bit over time. Everybody who's listening, yes, what in the world is the background about? It is, let's find maybe not the most important, but really relevant literature that is going to help us give a context for our study. In other words, it justifies your study. So that is why our current head of school, and I agree with him, says that the literature review, like the real literature review, the one that you write in chapter 2, is really helps with writing an excellent chapter 1. So sometimes you don't have to write literature review, you can just read it. But if you have not done an extensive reading of the scholarly literature, your write-up of chapter 1 may be problematic. As in, it might need a rewrite when you finish. If that makes any sense? Are you following, Alex?
Yeah, I'm listening to what you're saying.
You're listening, but are you following?
Yeah, I'm definitely following. Following.
Okay.
Initially, what we had wrote the background to be was a justification for the research. We really didn't write it in a context that it would be a summary of the literature review, because based on what we were reading online, that's what the gist of background was supposed to be. But that's the amazing work of feedback. Now that we getting the feedback, no, we can definitely make the adjustment. So that's the amazing power of
So it's all right to
feedback.
know. Don't forget to
So
know
that's good.
you can get the background to an A plus background. There's a whole heap of time, so no need to panic. And this is for everybody. You have until July 6th to make the presentation. So if you're willing to put in the work, everybody can improve their chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, and chapter 5 in a way that's phenomenal if you're willing to put in the work. And I'm being serious. Now, some of you may go from D to B
Yes,
and some may go to C to B plus, but the point is everybody can improve if you're serious about it. Yes, Alex.
the thing about our goal is that the work is not the problem. The problem would be now to get feedback because we can only do the best to our understanding. So
Okay,
the
that is
more we
fair.
understand, the better we can do.
I would have to agree
And
with you that
feedback is
understanding,
important.
yes. There are at least three ways in which I learn research. One is by reading and listening to good research content. Actually, there's actually really good textbooks and really good YouTube videos on it. And perhaps maybe I should share more of that. Another one that's really important is getting good feedback. And the third one, which I want to say that you're all capable of, is thinking critically about your own paper and getting feedback internally, not just from outsiders. When I say outsiders, I'm like an outsider for your project. If I join in eventually to your project, the point is, maybe it is that right now you haven't gotten over a critical hunch, but let's just take right now today. Hopefully, as many people in your group is here or can watch your replay because it's on YouTube. And Mr. White, hopefully, this is not to be private. This is to be public. You can look at it, think about it, and it's not okay. You can all collectively think critically about your project and work hard at it before you come and say, oh, your supervisor or myself or somebody else to give feedback. And that's a very important part of making your project go forward. But yes, certainly getting valuable feedback is helpful. So Alex, should we continue with your project?
Yeah, I really want you to look to the literature review because I know that we didn't really mention all of that stuff in the research questions in the background, but it's actually there in the literature review. So all of that is defined and
this is there. All right,
yeah.
So let's just look at that. And so the next thing they have is the relevant significance of the study. It will be down to all of these people. Oh yes, I remember seeing this before. And I think I told you that the purpose of the study doesn't come in the significance because we had met before. Purpose is separate from significance. So the purpose is what you're hoping for the study to achieve. The significance is, so if this is the purpose, wow. All right. I think this is fine. Let's not worry about this right now. This is very long. Significance, limitations, delimitations. I'm not sure what is a common platform economy. I really actually literally don't know. I have some idea what a global value chain is. Well, the other thing is in research studies, if you're going to use terms that is not clear, you actually need to define them. I'm not sure what you mean by the help of a common platform economy.
Once I keep scrolling, you will see the definition there. I'm going to put it in the background. So
so the common platform is here on the definition of terms? Oh, it's all by itself.
It's not that. It has a paragraph by itself. So we want it to be as detailed as possible in that regards.
I don't know. Somebody's putting chats. Will the recording be sent out? The only problem is how it's going to be sent out, but yes, we're making it available. So Mr. White and the sketch rep and myself, I don't really have any way to send things out. We just sent it out, and I think people got it. We're going to be, it was going to be today, but next week, we're going to be having everybody register eventually to be coming. So I want to register everybody who's here, but I guess at this point it'll be next week. But yes, we will be sending out the registration. So by the way, for everybody, we're begging you, myself and another colleague, are doing a little research study. And in fact, let me just take a pause since some people might leave. Let me see. Let me stop share for a second. And then people on YouTube, are they going to get that? That's going to be tricky. I should have thought about it before. I wasn't thinking that anybody was actually going to be on the, literally going to be on the, I didn't think anybody was actually going to be on the YouTube while we're in process. Anyway, so here's a form for everybody who is on. I'm asking you to please fill out this form in the next 12 hours, possibly. Oh, Mr. White, are you there still? Could you kindly share that survey on YouTube, please? See if I can, let me see if I can send him a message. Please. Yeah, so let's go back to, let me share back the screen. Yes, but the goal is to basically facilitate everybody getting access to the information. So where are we? This here, so no, it was in Word. Right, so we're here. Right, so let me not focus on this right now. Let's just go to what you're asking. So this would take some looking at because I'm not sure about this right now. So where does the literature review start? Is this the beginning of the literature review? Because I'm a bit puzzled where it starts. I'm a bit puzzled what's happening here. So you have digital technology, percentage of SMEs in Jamaica. Oh, by the way, when you take these screenshots, you should take out the table 4, and then you're going to relabel it as your table 1 because your first table in your paper, and then put in the source and all of that. Anyway, so let's go on. I'm trying to see where your literature review begins. Okay, so your literature review says, we're not going to have time to look at this right now, though, but let's just glance at it. So they have a critical role to play. So the first thing I want to know is what is in this literature review. You want to tell us somewhere this literature will focus on A, B, C, D, E, and you don't tell us that. So apparently you're going to tell us about Rogers diffusion technology or theory, hypothesis. This is spelled wrong. 5 categories of adoptions. Oh, this is all under Rogers. So these should be subsets of that big area. And this is all about Rogers diffusion, whatever it is. Business education and technology adoption. So for example, let's just look right here. You say here that this type of formal learning helps students to better understand business practices, but there's no citation to this. So you are claiming that the literature says that business education helps students better understand how business succeed, but in a literature review, it does 2 things. Primarily, it summarizes the literature and it evaluates the literature. If this is a summary of the literature, then it must say where you got that from. And I don't have no idea which research study got this information.
Just a question here, Ms. Muir. So for the literature review, so basically you cannot really give your interpretation or your perception any at all.
You can give an interpretation, but the interpretation is not the way you're saying it. So for example, it's to say this right now in 2 seconds is going to take a little while. So yes, you can give an interpretation. So for example, if there's all kinds of interpretation, but not at this section. So if it is that you found clashes in the literature, then you could come with some interpretation of the literature. But if you're saying that the literature, as in empirical data that has been collected in research studies, shows this, then if it hasn't shown this, it can't be in this section of the literature review.
I see. So
let's go back to what this thing is called, So let me just explain. Let me go back to here. That's next week. So we don't want to spend much more time, but it's the same thing if it was in the chapter 1. a literature review, there's many different definitions, but to me, the simplest way, there are three things that are important in the context of undergraduate students. One is literature review helps you to become more knowledgeable about the topic. But that's beside the point. Number two, it is when you write it. Sorry, that's important enough. Very, very important. Sorry. It helps you become more knowledgeable about the topic. That's a very important thing. But two, it helps you to enable you to write a summary of important literature on your area that you're going to, and then third, you're going to appraise or evaluate that literature. And then fourth, you're going to identify if there's a gap or there's a justification for the kind of research study that you're doing. So at the end of a literature review, you have what I want to call either a summary or concluding remarks. You don't have a conclusion because the conclusion comes at the end of the entire research study where you collect empirical data, whether primary or secondary data, in order to answer your research questions. Does that make sense, Alex?
Yes, it does make sense. And to just, in order for me to give you my understanding of what you said, I'm going to repeat it. So basically, you're saying that any type of remarks that we made must be some type of summary between some form of document, some form of data that we suggest that we have seen during our research, and not our personal opinion.
No, you can. No, listen to me again. My third point is a critical appraisal. So the critical appraisal is a reflection on the literature you read. And in my current state, and if my other learned colleagues would like to jump in right now, a critical appraisal is not the same as a claim. Here, back to, if I can find back let me find back the exact place I had before. I think I can find it back. It was right with this education thing. This is a claim. It's not an appraisal. So this is a claim that business education learning in a formal setting helps students or people to better understand what business practices to succeed. It's a claim, it could be an opinion as well. Now, you could then, suggest that this may be because of X, Y, and Z. However, this is not yet research in the literature. I don't even know. But this claim at the moment is not supported in your document by the literature. So I don't know whether it's your opinion or if it's based on research. I don't know. So there actually is ways in which you can critique the literature or say that the study is not well done. There's all kinds of things that you are allowed and permitted to do. And I am not able at this time to give you a comprehensive list. But what I'm saying is, especially when you're making a claim. So if you made something like 80% of Jamaican businesses, of Jamaican MSMEs, get jobs from whatever, remember that you got from somewhere. The same way this, in the point of view of academic literature, we're not giving an inspirational talk here. The rule is claims are justified from empirical studies.
Ms. Muir, if I could jump in?
Sure, right. David.
All right, so what I also would advise, as an example, to ask us to jump in, is that you could, for instance, read and say, there appears to be, based on the evidence from the literature, that A supports the notion that B exists, right? Whatever A and B is. And then now, you could say, however, John and Brown 2010 state instead are presented an alternate notion that C is what exists.
And then let me add sorry, are you finished, David? Thank you for that, David. And then you could go on now to say either that these are contradictory, or you could go on to say that, I'm not sure if you need to review, but somewhere you could probably say that your conjecture that is that A is true, not B is true. There are all kinds of things that can be said, but you actually need to differentiate between the study's findings and your perspective. I need to be careful about it. Alex?
So
is that helpful?
just to
go ahead,
reaffirm, Ms. Mio, way to state your opinions. What's the best way to like state your opinions? I know that Mr. Just said that we should like give like some comparison, like said based on the literature, there appears to be a etc.
Oh, well, what he just said though is that hold on. What Mr. White just said is actually excellent, but that alone is actually not even an opinion. So in general, when you're citing literature, it's always good if the literature that you put contrasting views. So if literature has 5 papers saying X and 10 papers saying something different, you put them both in the paper. And if you just only put one side, you're definitely not representing literature well. But in addition to that, you can then interpret or critique those findings in some way. But you should be clear that when you're doing it, that is your interpretation.
So, you made that clear now. That's
many ways. So maybe you could say the researchers or we think. There are so many ways you can say it. And now here's where back to what I said. I didn't say everything that was important. But if you go back to my thing about, was it all? Asking questions and I think writing. Well, the only writing and then I put experiencing feedback. Well, the way to write a lot is to read a lot. I know this might sound horrible, but the way to learn how to write academic writing is to read a lot of academic writing. But in lieu of that, in a short, quick, really is to read a lot. Some of the things that you want to say is like we suggest or there are many different ways in which in academic writing people position how to be, and I can't give you off the top of my head all of the ways that can be done. I don't know if Dr. Facey Shaw would be able to interject. Because really, there's not just one way. So for me to be saying that here's the 2-3 ways, I don't know what to say about that.
Let me just make my question more clear, Ms. Moore. I'm not really asking for a specific way. The thing is that I want to fundamentally understand it, because if you fundamentally understand how to do it, then it doesn't really matter the way or the approach.
Okay, so you're going to the concept, yeah, so, not to the specifics. Okay.
Yeah, but you did answer my question, Bo. My next question would be let me just see if I can. All right, never mind. I think I'll...
So like another thing here. So for example, let's take this section, the business education in Jamaica. So you tell us here that the sector of SMEs are slow to adopt ICT. So you tell us here that research shows that the use of ITT can do these things, which sounds plausible to me. And I'm actually wondering, isn't there a more recent study? But all right, fine. The 2008 study revealed that indicated that they completed secondary school. So wait, is that the study? Sorry, here where I'm already confused. You're telling us about the sector being slow to adopt ICT. Why don't you tell us about all of this? You're telling us how much of them have gone to school. Just tell us about this point. The point is about this, and I have to read so many things before maybe getting to the point. I don't say anything about ICT. I'm looking. Sorry, you had a point here that the sector has been slow, and I'm now looking for how is it supported. I said that ICT is important. There's a study in Jamaica that tells us how much they go to school, that don't tell us when they adopt ICT. They have what schooling they had, that there's a positive relationship between the size and the education owner, that still don't tell us anything about ICT and business owners.
Hold
on, I'm looking. Sorry, I'm going to your topic sentence, and I'm confused how this is what they call poor flow, sentences that linked well together. All of this
Let me
seem to
just
be one.
Miss Moore. So remember,
Yes.
I had said earlier that question 6 was really what the methodology would be about. So what we would do is that we would actually look into link these together. So what we would do, what we are trying to do in the conclusion is to state that there isn't enough data, statistical data, to show most of these. So there are most
These
of
what? You mean the factors that link to the slowness to adopt ICT or e-commerce in Jamaican micro, small,
so,
medium businesses? Is that it?
so basically the adoption.
No, sorry, answer my question. Is it that you really want to find out the factors that impede the adoption of e-commerce in small companies in Jamaica? Is that the heart of your project? Is that a yes?
Yeah.
Is that yes, no question?
That's.
Is that the heart of your project? Yes, no. Or if it's not, tell me what it is.
The question is not really a yes, no question. All right. So basically what the project is about is that we want to see how companies can use the digital technology to get a competitive edge. But before we can do that,
you have no research question like that. That might be your research question when you do your master's in ISM or your PhD. What is this research study about?
So I guess you would have to read the whole document, Ms. Moore, in order to get.
If you cannot summarize your research study in a sentence or two, your research have a problem.
No, I can summarize research.
Good, go ahead.
What I'm saying is that Ms. Moore is
summarize what is the purpose or primary research question, because I'm still not sure. I see 6 research questions and I see just summarize it for me kindly.
All right, let me summarize it and give you some context. All right, so basically the research is about understanding MSMEs adoption to technology, how they are coping with the technology, whether they are adapting, what factors are affecting their adoption and all of that, and how they can use a common platform. So all of that would tie into
hold on. So hold on, let's stop. The factors affecting the adoption of e-commerce among these small businesses, MSMEs. Hold on. Hold on. You're really confusing me now. And then the second point, what is the thing about the common platform? Because that seems to be the first idea. What's the second idea about the common platform?
All right, so let me just backtrack a bit. So basically what is going on in this research is that looking at the factors that affect small businesses from adapting to technology. So once we look at the factors now, then that will lead into how they can actually utilize this to gain a competitive edge, and that will lead into the e-commerce capabilities. So what we're going to do is limit it to one sector, which is the wholesale and retail sector. So we're not going to look at all the sectors. So what we're trying to do is that we're going to see if the data can
Hold on. You're giving us too much information. What exactly is the research question about the wholesale and retail? What is the platform? I don't know what the research question is. All research questions should be able to be stated. Listen to me carefully, and we need to end this now. Succinctly, it's not a long story. People don't hold PhD, and they can make a summary presentation of their PhD after spending 3 years or 7 years in 15 minutes. They can say this research question in 2 minutes. If you know your research well, you know exactly what research is about. The challenge right now is that you have so many ideas, of which many of them are great, but it has to be focused. That's the challenge with the study. And I am not sure. So it seems to me that the study is all over the place. And the literature review is also all over the place. But it's certainly, based on what I see here, you've done a lot of reading. I can see you and your group have done a lot of reading. Let's see if you have a gap. So let me see now to see what's the gap, because a good literature review would tell us the gap. So the end of the review, you give us a summary, not a conclusion, a summary, and then you tell us the gap of literature. So you tell us that it's essential to know positive or negative of the adoption of MSCs. And you apparently tell us that you read some papers, including Division of Innovation, and you tell us more about Rogers, which is important to explore opportunities on a digital platform. Yeah, that's plausible. And you say that other research studies show that business education is a key factor in adopting of digital, and people without that business education are less likely to do that. Fine. The literature review points to social economic factors causing a division in societies into formal and informal sectors. So apparently the informal sector have some problems with adoption of ICT, also not surprising. Research shows that many SMEs fell into this informal division and so not being able to benefit from technology. All that sounds probable. This by intersection means that they are less likely to access and leverage global value chains. Okay, I'm actually liking your summary, hoping that the paper up above was like this. The literature also proposed that digital technology has the capability to propel MSMEs from informal to formal, providing with opportunities to access global value chains. Another thing to note is that data on how Jamaican micro, small, and medium enterprises are actually coping, adopting the technology is minuscule. I hope this is actually in the paper, but sounds plausible as well. We aim to use this chapter to find some data. This chapter? So here's the thing. What is the gap? So maybe this is your gap. Maybe this is your gap. So at the end of the literature review, everybody in the whole world is supposed to tell us what is the gap that now relates back to your research question or questions. And see, the only thing I see here is perhaps in your literature review, you have shown us, either shown us by citing other papers that say so, or by your reading, you show that there's a paucity of literature relating to how Jamaican micro, small, medium enterprises are actually using digital technology. Is that what you have written? Is that written up above? Is there a section in here that actually tells us this? Or is that the only sentence in the whole thing that tells us?
I didn't hear what you said. Can you say it again?
This sentence, I'm looking for it now. So you have this conclusion. You have this conclusion sentence. And the very last sentence I've highlighted says, another key thing to note is that data on how Jamaican micro, small, medium enterprises are actually coping and adopting to digital technology is minuscule. Sounds plausible to me. But my question is that discussed in that literature review that you have above, which went on for about...
Yes, it's very discussed because as you were saying before, when you were saying that we didn't really give much like empirical data regarding the ICT and the business education.
No, it's not empirical data, information. You won't be giving empirical data here because you just be reading papers. So where was this discussed in your literature review? This sentence?
I mean, it's discussed in each topic in the literature review, in each subtopic.
So in each subtopic, at the end or somewhere throughout each section, you talk about that Jamaican micro, small, medium enterprises are not utilizing digital technology much. I just believe you.
No,
what you did then?
All right, let me just say this, Ms. Moore. So what it is really is that we show because actually utilizing digital technology is just more than just buying some piece of technology and utilizing it. What you have in a sense is you have to have like some formal way to facilitate that. So when we talk about the business education, first you need to look into that in order to, what we were trying to do is that we weren't trying to state what's really going on there. Why are the businesses are not able to utilize technology? So we look at business education, we look at the informal economy and the formal economy. So the formal economy is basically the government incentivizing these small businesses, giving them institutionalized support and all of that. So we talk about all of that and how that will actually help these businesses to utilize
Did
these.
you talk about it in terms of Jamaican MSMEs?
So we definitely spoke part to that, and that's what we're going to really look into in chapter 4. So chapter 4 would definitely own it
No, hold on. Sorry, before we get to chapter 4, as you're going to call it data, before we get to chapter 4, this sentence, for this to be justified based on the literature, it either is that there is no evidence on it, so it's one or two things. Most likely is either that there is a paucity, meaning not much written, there's a paucity of literature, or there's not much written about how SMEs are adopting digital technology, or it is that the published literature on Jamaica and FCC show that there is limited adoption. I don't know which one. So what I was asking you is, did you write about this in the literature review?
Yes, we wrote about it. Do you mean like that specific sentence that's saying it's written but it's not well documented? Are you talking about something like that?
No, this right here, because you see what I
if that's what you're asking.
What I'm telling you is that basically you haven't really, you see, here's my thinking of the justification. It could be that you think it's likely, because I think it's likely, that there are reasons to shift to digital technology because of COVID. It could be that you're thinking that all kind of things that is happening, that there is no recent literature. I don't even know. But the thing is, this one sentence alone, in my mind, while it might be true, I don't know if it's based on literature. And secondly, I don't know if this is enough to justify your entire project. So all I'm suggesting is that you may want to say more than just this. Because the general rule is you do a literature review. Listen to what I said again. Let me go from the beginning. It is for you to become more knowledgeable, you, the research team, more knowledgeable about the topic. It is 2, this may not be a comprehensive list. 2, for you to give a summary with citations of that literature, which is maybe the same point number 1. So point number 2 is for you to evaluate that literature in a connected way. So for example, when Mr. White said earlier that these 3 authors said this, however, these 2 other authors said that, that is part of writing in a critical way. But you can also critique the research studies if they're worth critiquing. They don't have to be critiqued, but you have to find a way to actually analyze the papers if you want it to be at an A+ level. Then thirdly, another goal of the literature review is to identify the rationale for your study. So the reason why, let's go back to this, the reason why I showed this earlier, this is not the right one. The reason why I showed you this earlier, the reason why I showed this earlier about research gaps is there's actually another school of thought, but the old-time school of thought is basically, why do any research? Because there's a research gap. By the way, guys, and my colleagues, there's actually another school of thought as well. So in addition to research gaps, there's actually other ways to approach rationale for research. But for the most part, most research is justified based on this term called research gaps. Right? So the question is, at the end of the literature review, you should be telling us what's the research gap. So what I'm saying is, I like your summary insofar as I haven't read the whole literature review, but it seems to make logical sense. What I don't see is how it ties really well to those 6 research questions, and I don't know what is your gap or gaps.
All right.
And how, and this is not the time for it today. So this is the end of my feedback. And hopefully this is of some value.
Let me just say this, Miss Moore. Are you talking that we were supposed to state the gap outright? So, for example,
That is a rule. So the rule is that you should state in writing the gap or gaps. Not my rule, the rule.
No, what I'm asking is that are we supposed to state it outright? So, for example,
Yes.
we should.
And I said yes. It's supposed to write and say that it depends on what your gap is. Yes, I'm suggesting strongly that you actually write your gap at the end, or some other kind of justification at the end of your literature review. So the reason why earlier I asked in the presentation, what is the relationship between the literature review and the research questions? And the reason why my answer is the literature review justifies the research question, because once you find a gap or some other justification, it now gives the reason for the research question or question. Yes?
I see. All right.
You see? So let me see how many people are here, and I see that there's a chat. Oh, we still have a few people still here. So people are not tired of this long. I wasn't surprised that we have less people. We're at 7:30. I think we should end for today.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Roger?
Yeah. Seeing that I had sent my project some time ago, you're gonna end now. When?
What is your topic again, Roger?
Strategic application of IT in SMEs in Jamaica.
Oh, that is the whole group of
Yes.
you. The whole
Yes,
group of you. It's all three of you with this whole story. Mr. Whitaker, because it's all three of you together. Until at least Monday. So apart from the Wednesday meetings, I listen to what I said to everybody, it's not public. So at the moment, it's Mondays and Wednesdays that I am giving for sure for research. The other thing I would say to you, Mr. White, that may be able to accommodate you. I don't know if he is, because in a sense, the e-commerce thing is maybe a little bit outside the tool out of their particular focus in the intelligence systems lab. Not that they would not be willing, talking for Mr. White here. So what I would suggest is that you could contact me and see if I could have some time on Monday. But it's no, really, it's half an hour before curfew. I'm actually not even at home, and my brother's visiting from abroad. I need to go home. So I would suggest Monday.
What time Monday are you suggesting?
I'm not committing to anything, Mr. Whitaker. Please send me an email.
I had sent multiple emails, Ms. Mayor.
Mr. Whitaker, Mr. Whitaker, Mr. White and Dr. Visa Shaw can testify. UTech sends us on meetings all the time, and just the last thing I'll say, since it's all being recorded, is this is bonus. This is not my job. This is just, I am just helping anybody who I can. So I'm saying the earliest I could possibly is Monday, but really I'm promising for next week, Wednesday at lunchtime and Wednesday at I'll do 2 next week Wednesday. I'll do Wednesday at lunchtime. Hopefully there'll be no work meeting. I'll do Wednesday evening 5 to 7. So definitely next week Wednesday 12 and next week Wednesday 5. Next week Monday I have a work meeting that's 9 to about 11. So I need to think. I just want to say off the top of my head. I also have to look at my calendar. I'm trying to look at my calendar, but I don't want to make any promises right now. Like honestly, I don't want to make any promises. So all I can say, Mr. Whitaker, sorry to say your name wrong, is that I am a little bit overwhelmed with a lot of work and I can't make any commitments. So if you are able to find any of the other colleagues to give you assistance, you could do so. And you can still come on Wednesday and we can look at where you are. And you could make updates before then. I know you don't like that response, but I'm just being honest.
Okay. Okay, Mr.
I don't know if Mr. White or Dr. Facey Shaw has anything to add to that.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get everything, but I'm inviting the student to send me an email to see how best I could assist.
Okay. All right. So you can send.
I'll post my email address in the chat.
Right. It's a lot of students asking me for help, colleagues, a lot. The list is just getting longer and longer. I only have so much time and no more. So, hey man, guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope as many of you fill out the survey as possible, trying to get an idea of how you are thinking and feeling about this project. Hope this was of some value. We will see you next week, Wednesday. So, in fact, show of hands. Anybody who's here know, I know some of you work 9 to 5. But those who are not working, who wants to come at lunchtime on Wednesday? Anybody who is still here? There's not many people who are still here.
I'd be willing to come during that period on Wednesdays because my schedule is free.
Okay. All right, man. And Roger wants to come. Yeah, I know it's a lot. So it's only 2 people who are here, but at least even if those 2, because Alex and Roger is the one who wanted the thing. So if I can meet you before that, Roger, and Chadroy, are you in one of those 2 groups or a different group?
Yes, miss. Same group as Roger.
Okay. Well, that's 2 different groups. So at least 2 groups want to. So that's certainly more than enough reason for meeting. So I can certainly meet with those 2 groups and hope we can make some headway. So I hope that this was of value, guys. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and hopefully we have an idea. Next week, we're going to look at literature review, and then we're going to proceed on to methods. And there was a question about the ethics, but at the end of it, is that person still here? Because at the end of it, just for everybody who's still here, for the ethics, it's really about, I am not the chair of the ethics committee. So the chair of the ethics committee is Dan Plummer. There is an email form. Let me see. There was a question about it. What was the question? What was the question exactly?
The question was if they could, if they could give out the survey without going back to the ethics committee.
Yeah, the short answer is no. Well, the short answer is they should not. And there was a group that emailed me, I think either yesterday or today, asking me, the supervisor asked me that. And the issue was, it's really actually a shift in the topic. I don't know. So my short answer is that they should not. I don't know what else to say other than that. Anyway.
Miss Muir, I think it also depends on what the comments specifically were.
Yeah, it does depend.
It could be that, the project had gotten approval and some suggestions were made as to, you could refine this question here. You need to maybe change the age ranges or so on. So if those were the comments, the type of comments that were made, then once they address those comments, I think they could go ahead once the project was given clear approval by the committee. So if it's those kinds of recommendations, I think they could go ahead, unless the chair had indicated that, we had some serious challenges with these questions and you need to send it back for us to look at it before.
Oh, well, certainly if that is the comments, I didn't get that idea from what is there. So certainly if it's just these minor things where they're making suggestions about things, then it doesn't matter. But it says the question needs some work. So yeah, in a sense, if what they mean is that it's some minor matters. So yeah, in a sense, what is there, we don't know. We don't have enough information from what is here to know.
Okay, so if specifically for my group's questionnaire that they had given us approval, but I'd also said that there were a few questions that just needed to be reworded and some that they believe should have been removed. So once we took out the ones that needed to be removed and reworded the ones that said needed clarity, we can just continue. We can just proceed, right?
As a principle, Mr. Morgan, generally speaking, the best practice is to test it on real people. Meaning, you give it to 1 or 2 people who are your friends, 1 or 2 people who fit the profile. So if the profile is 12 to 15-year-olds, you give it to 1 or 2 12 to 15-year-olds and see if they understand the questionnaire. If the profile is elderly, whoever the profile is, you give it to people and then you test it that way, and then you actually do the real survey. That's actually the best way to do surveys. You test. that's really the best way. I mean, and if you don't test, it's not the end of the world, but really to do, I mean, if you do it really nicely, there's this thing called, what's it called? I can't even say it properly. There's a statistical test that actually lets you figure out if the questionnaire is actually robust. We're not expecting that at the undergraduate level, but yes, you can do this. Just some questions to make sure that regular people who are the population understand the questions. And that's all the committee is really trying to do, making sure that the questions are good questions that people will understand. That was really the goal of the committee. Is that understood, Mr. Morgan?
Yes, miss. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So I hope this has been a helpful session. I wishing you all a good evening and a good rest of the week.
Okay. Have a nice night.
Okay.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Gentles.
Miss Muir.
Yes, Mr. White.
Click on end the session here because I'm not at my computer.
Yeah, man, I will. Mr. Gentles, what's your question?
No, I was just telling you good evening.
Oh, good evening. All right, so I'm going to leave. So, ta-ta. Bye.